All good? Can you hear us?
Can you? Yes.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
So welcome back. Thank you very much for kind of avoiding the sun and coming here, but it'll be worth it, I can promise you that. We have a great guest for our third talk. It's Leila Delarive. She's a co-founder of Hoopit AI. She's going to explain what it is. It is kind of a network, if I understand it correctly. But you have a very kind of an interesting career path behind you. You practice as a lawyer for over 10 years,
Yes.
I mean, for a long time. And then you created multiple companies. You kind of switched sides, which is very interesting, what we can talk about as well. And you kind of reinvented yourself along the way. Very interesting as well. And now let's talk about Hoopit. I found the claim quite interesting. It's work like you know everyone. What does that mean? What do you do?
Well, it means that in an organization, you need to know exactly who's the right person at the right time when it comes to take a decision. So Hoopit helps you really to see through the organization, through your network, and pop the right person at the right time at really when you need to take a specific decision. So the expert is in the room and we connect you to this expert by leveraging an AI system.
So how does the AI work into that whole system? Is it basically founded all on AI?
It's on a graph base, and so based on that, we map your network first, and then blending exogenous and endogenous data, we can really map this person or is the specialist into this field because he's published this research, or he's been experienced into that field because in the previous role he did this and this. So we can really identify exactly who's this person based on public and non-public available data. And then there's a relevance score, why you and me should connect on that specific topic, because there are many different insights that bring us together at a specific moment in time.
It's very interesting. Let's talk about that a little bit more afterwards, because it was kind of a merger that you did as well, and that is very interesting as well, because then we talk about kind of merger of culture as well, which is very fascinating for a lot of people, I'm pretty sure. If we go back one step to your kind of beginnings, as I said, you worked as a lawyer, and there must have been a point in time where you said, okay, will I do this for another 30, 40 years, or will I change my career path completely? What was that point, and what brought you to it?
I really became hyper specialized as a lawyer. I had what we call in French the FSA, so it was really the stempel of lawyers specialized into real estate and construction. And I was like, okay, I reached my goal, because now I'm in a very specific niche. I've got high-end customers, telco operators. What's next? Next to scale as a lawyer would mean having more employees, lawyers working for me. Do I really want that? Or will I lose, this human connection with my I would say customers? And I was like, I'm an advocate, I'm not a lawyer. I like to plead, I like to push causes forwards, and that's how I end up into the media.
Okay.
But with really a vision that was, we need to help people to see beyond what is visible. So be curious, bring in the room the best experts, the people who have the knowledge to explain to a broader audience what is underlying any specific topic or any news that is happening. So it was way before, all these conspirational theories. Yeah. But it was really the idea of, let's see in a very informed way, deeply, what's going on in our world. Let's be curious, and maybe help more women come on stage, express their standpoint, because we need diversity in order to better understand the world in which we live.
I'm well aware that we often talk about cliches, and of course, being a lawyer, for me, not being a lawyer also comes with certain cliches. But is it fair to say that what I take from what you just said, that you prefer to be creative, you prefer to maybe moderate or mediate instead of litigate?
Well, litigation, I quite liked to be before a court and argue But then you have the final judgment, and this final judgment relies on humans, and so it's sometimes biased, it's sometimes, you have a judge who doesn't really want to go beyond, push further the limits, so you have to deal with the system. Mm-hmm. And I'm quite not very comfortable in systems. I like to go around the system or disrupt the system. Yeah. And so I thought it was not by going and doing appeals and going even before the High Court of Justice. That's not how or it's going to take ages to make the system move forward, progress. It's by grasping first media, then technology, that we can really help society move forward.
It sounds simple, to kind of change career path, and I think we live in a country where it is doable. On the other hand, it takes a lot of courage. And it takes that kind of final push. Okay, I'm going to do it. Are you intrinsically kind of courageous, or did you have to fight with yourself as well?
So I'm a very entrepreneur person. Yeah. So since I was a kid, I've been imagining activities, being an entrepreneur from day one. So I think it's like something it's in my DNA. Mm-hmm. But then, when you want to apply it in real world, change from law to media, then tech, you really need to be very agile, to be humble, and that's what being a lawyer taught me. Mm-hmm. It's like never take anything for granted, and accept that you don't know, accept to ask, and surround yourself with people who know better than you, and really. Make them shine, be a leader, make them shine, and together exchange and move forward together.
But were you scared doing that?
I was never scared, but I had very hard times. It's not an easy path. Mm. You learn by doing, and you make a lot of mistakes. So you should not, start to underestimate your value when you sometimes you fail, sometimes you take bad decisions. Yeah. So you need to always stick to the vision and not take anything personally. And what I learned along the way is that you need to become very surgical in the way you act, in the sense that you need to put some of your feelings on the side and stay very fact-oriented. And that's the way to move forward, always progress.
Not that I want to kind of rub it in, but since this is the unplugged stage, we talk about kind of failures or dark moments or mistakes as well. So if I asked you what was the biggest one that you did, or what was the kind of the most difficult time throughout that journey?
It's the human factor.
Okay.
Humans are the most complicated species in the world. Thank God, because that's why it's interesting. But I think that when you become co-founder, when you found something with others, the people factor is one of the most important. Yeah. So
and
you have
most unpredictable as well, right?
Unpredictable. So at first you're in the honeymoon phase. Yeah. Everybody it's like in a marriage. You love your partner, you love your co-founders, and then hard times happen, and then we all react differently when it becomes hard. Mm-hmm. And that's where you need to really try to be very supportive of each other. And that's where suddenly people react very differently under stress and pressure. And I think that's at that time where we need coaching, we need some external help, not to
like a marriage
kill each other. So I think for me, that was the human factor that was the most complicated.
But that's very interesting, because that's a talk we already had here as well today, that it's often the case that you found a company with friends, or even your best friend, or with your partner, and you start from scratch, and that would be the honeymoon phase. Do you think in hindsight, sometimes it would be easier not being so attached or not being so familiar with the other co-founders or with your partners, and have maybe the outside view and not being too much into it and not too sentimentally attached?
I think we should really remove any feelings. Yeah, but not to become psychopath neither. It's not. But I think that we should even have an assessment. Who is doing what and what are we all have genius zones.
Yeah.
And so once we acknowledge you're genius in that, you're genius in that, you put the ego on the side, because most of the time there's an ego problem too. Because I'm the CEO, I'm the COO, I'm the whatever. So you should remove all that and really see where we are the best ones, the strongest. And companies that succeed, succeed to overcome this ego and relational problem. I think that's very important.
That sounds simple, but it's very difficult.
No, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
And you kind of have that experience in the last years, because as I said, Hoopit is quite young still. And it is a collaboration, a merger with American partners. How did that come along?
So before we merged, the company was called Amplify. Yep. And Amplify was in the field of advertisement. We were building an autonomous agent that was self-learning, self-generating advertisement. And this methodology that was, helping a brand to find the right audience, thanks to a self-learning system, now is embedded into what Hoopit is today. And we always knew that Switzerland was it was a tiny market, and that we had to go outside of.
So you were looking from the start for.
But based on our previous experience, entering a new market is very difficult without having a strong partnership, having the right people that can help you open doors. Because me as a Swiss entrepreneurs going there and say, hello, I'm here. It's impossible unless you have a real strong network and real counterparts there. So I met with my partner, who is American, and because our two companies were completing each other, the technology we were developing, then we decided to merge.
How did you meet, or how did you get in
Through a network.
Yeah, okay.
Through a network, through a common, another CEO who put us in touch. And so we had to do the due diligence. It was a heavy process. Merging is not like just signing an agreement. It was quite heavy, which was good because it really taught me also a new aspect of the business. Mm-hmm. And once we merged, then we have to bring two cultures together. Mm-hmm. And probably that we have not considered enough the gap that exists between European and American culture.
The cultural gap.
Yes, cultural gap is very huge. And cultural gap because Americans are very friendly, but they have a total different way of working.
Okay.
The work-life balance is completely different, and we shall not underestimate. Even though, part of the team, R&D team, development team is in Europe, and they really work. We have all the logs and how many hours they work. Mm-hmm. But it's a total different way of approaching this.
So is it now a merger of culture as well, or would you say it's more or less an American culture dominating, or the Swiss culture?
No, the European culture, Swiss culture is dominating, and that's why we're also restructuring the company right now to make a focus on the sovereignty and on building a secure layer into our system, because there is a backlash against American tech. And it's not just Europe, it's worldwide. And I think that we have a card to play by, embracing
playing
our
the
Swiss.
European card.
Yes, exactly. I really think there's an opportunity right now into the AI space, and we really felt it pitching in the US. We attracted US investors as well. But it's appealing to have a more secured, a more trustworthy system than what exists in the US.
But it's very interesting what you say. So you I guess it probably started with Trump 2.0. So it's really you can feel there is a kind of a malaise vis-a-vis the American part.
Yes. Yeah. We feel it, and not only here, also in the US.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we have this approach of not only ethical, it's a serious deep tech approach of AI, long term is going to pay. Mm-hmm. We think we're losing ground because they go so fast. It's true, they invest massive amount of money into AI, But on the other hand, there is a space that's maybe more niche, but for more, grounded. And we have 3 patents. This is also valued. We have all this ecosystem that is amazing with industries that is supporting. We have a research project going on in Switzerland. This has a huge value. It opens doors. So I think that we should not be ashamed of our Swissness. On the contrary, I think it's a huge plus. And the fact that I was born in Switzerland, but I have Iranian background, origins. That's also something that can help, build this bridge between, because I'm very sensitive to culture. I love the Swiss culture. I was born here, but I'm also very attracted to big.
So is there a Middle Eastern part as well in you that you bring?
Yes, I think it's seeing the world, not being afraid to see big markets, to think big. Sometimes in Switzerland we don't think big enough, or when we think big, we the head is cut.
It's like the grass.
Yeah. So,
but when you talk about different cultures, you working in the space of AI, we know that there are different speeds as well. The Americans are a little bit more open when it comes to the AI Act, for example. The Europeans are a bit reserved, if I may say so.
Yes.
How do you feel that difference?
I think the difference is how you do business. In the US, you can shake a hand and it goes. And it's all around what is your network, who you can meet. So network, that's why also Hoopit exists, because it really helps you find the right person. And it goes very fast. Once you've got the good, contact, then the business can really grow hyper fast. Here, it's long. You have to go, to talk, to trust. The sales cycles are longer. And I think for me, that's the big difference. And how we can change that, I have no idea, Urs. If I knew, that would be
another business.
Yes, that would be great. But I think that's we also work a lot on network and the people we know in Switzerland. And but the size of the market, by the language barrier, and we really, we made the effort to go on the Swiss-German part. We have Swiss-German investors on the cap table, and I think we can build something together. But it's like one market divided into 4 markets.
So there's always a limit.
So there's always something that is going slower than when you have one unified market, and where they're used to compete. The competition, speeds up the process in the US. Because you have to be the number one from day one. You have to aim for the best. If not, you're dead.
Are we a bit too modest, or sometimes not daring enough, or how would you describe the Swiss way?
We're too rich and too wealthy and have too much comfort. And I think, honestly, that's what is like, we're not hungry enough.
Okay. And that makes us risk averse.
Well, I met with a French guy in Los Angeles, and I was at the supermarket and we were speaking French, and he came and said, it was during the World Cup a few years ago. It was like, Vive la France. I said, no, not Vive la France, Vive la Suisse. And he said, oh, you're Swiss? So we started discussing, and he was a filmmaker in LA, like something very awkward in a supermarket. And I asked him, I said, but how did you succeed here? And he said, you know what? It's like when there is one egg and you need to be the first to go and need the egg, you need to go fast and really like be the one that reaches that goal number. You need to speed up, And I think that's the difference, because you have so much competition. There's a job opening. There's 1,000 people applying. How many companies like Hoopit are on the market? Probably there's a lot. So you need to be the best. You cannot just be. You need to be the best. And I think this is a difference. And in Switzerland, you can do business it's very local. You go, you meet your customers in a very limited space, and you can still do it great.
Exactly. So that can be cozy and
So you see the difference. The other one is survival. Here is.
that goes for the kind of relationships as well, and having dealt with Americans as well. I was kind of struck, and you said it. They're very nice. They're very friendly. On the other side, they have a tough side. Is that something that you kind of face now as well? That you say, okay, on on the surface it's all good, but the tone is maybe rougher.
It's transactional, as is, we saw it with the tariffs. We were like, oh, we can trust, we come, sometimes we're like trusting too much. And you cannot, it's not that you cannot trust, but it's very transactional and it's business oriented.
Yeah.
If you are a problem or if you're not going to help the business happen, then goodbye.
Yeah.
So you need to become very self-aware and very aware of the danger zones. It really helped, it made me, not helped me, it made me be very much more like reactive and trusting less, being more data-driven.
Okay. Yeah.
So the human factor,
Which
as
is a
I
bit
said,
of pity, no?
it's a pity, but it's the real world in which we live. That's also, because we live in a very protected country, we don't see that the real world outside of Switzerland, it's the Wild West. And so we need to take that into consideration.
To toughen up a little bit.
So now I'm much tougher than I used to be. But is it sad? No, because I kept my soul. I kept who I am, my personality. I just grew up.
Now the sun has joined us happily. We can open up the discussion if you want. If you have questions, comments, your own experience, maybe you have worked with different cultures as well. The stage is yours if you want to have your say. Otherwise, I'll come back to you. Leila, I was avoiding one question, speaking about cliches again, one question that I know a woman in that field or in the startup ecosystem, also in technical professions, always have to face. However, I'm going to ask it anyway because I think it is an important question. Do you feel that you had it tougher, or did you have challenges or different moments because you were being a woman in a let's say male-dominated area?
So, I try personally. I always focus on what's working and not what's not working.
Yeah.
So I don't put much emphasis on me being a woman and the fact that probably there are biases, and we as women are biased too. You see women pilots. When you take a plane, say, oh, is it the pilot going to be as good as a man? So we all have all kind of biases. But I have to say, there are different perspectives. When you deal with tech people, engineers, you women or not, makes no difference. They take you as seriously as if you were anyone. You pitch investors, I think that you can convince investors as well. Now, there are some data that show that women tend to less convince men when they are pitching. Women tend to get less funding worldwide. Is it because there's a bias or because we come with nonsense project? I don't know. But there is, it's the generation's going to move. The decisions maker today are not going to be the new generation coming where I believe there's not much difference being women or not. So there's a shift. The society is evolving. I'm a generation in between. I started my career, it was very male-oriented. I didn't take that as an excuse. I, had to double down on being specialized as a lawyer, as an attorney, publishing more articles, scientific articles, and okay, that's just a fact. I'm not complaining about that. It's just that it is what it is.
However, being from Iran, I know you've been very engaged in that whole female empowerment movement following Mahsa Amini, the whole case. Does that make you more of a fighter, or do you think you want to kind of translate that engagement into the business as well?
I think it's also the education that I received. in my country of origin, studies are like it's your strongest asset. So first you need to be a doctor. Physicians are like top of the top, and everybody in my family wanted me to be a physician, which I couldn't do. Then you're an engineer, and then maybe the rest can be taken. But you need to study. I mean, it's very like it's your first asset is have the strongest study. That's why I did a PhD. I mean, I went quite far in my studies, and I was raised into you have to be independent no matter what. Our country, you know, we had a revolution. Many people lost money from one day to another. Not my family, because they were really in the field of, you know, education. My dad is a physician, so we're like more into that, I would say, intellectual society. But that was something that you can lose money from one day to another. You have to be really independent and don't rely on anyone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's natural. I mean, it's not a question of being a woman or not. Probably I would have been raised the same if I was a boy. But it's just that you can never count on anyone. You know, political systems change from one day to another.
Change very rapidly. Yeah.
And that's what I learned in the US. You can terminate a contract within 2 weeks. And then you can lose everything, and you end up on the streets from one day to another. So that's also part of like, don't rely on anyone, just count on yourself. And that's probably not gender related.
Yeah. But a good advice for
the next generation.
Next generation, the young startup. Let me have a look. We still have a little bit of time. Yes, we have 2 questions. Please, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's coming. And yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to remark that I had very many contacts over a long time with boards and startup companies. And in my looking back, you know, the most prominent, most successful, very good CEOs have been women. So that's the one thing. And the other thing, which is a little more negative, you know, is that if I look at business plans, which I also do a lot, I always see a lot of men, you know, and I'm asking myself, you know, is this really what I count? So, and then in one company that I was involved, they once looked for a new board member or something, right? And in the job description, they said it has to be a woman. And I found that, first of all, it discriminates qualified men. But I think it's also very unfair for the woman, because it tells her...
It singles her out.
If you are selected, you know, it's just because you're a woman, not because of your qualifications.
Very interesting.
I fully agree, and I would say that there's one, I mean, we have as women to work on something, is that we want to be perfect all the time. Is it because we were raised into you need to be the number one student? You know, we don't allow ourselves to not be perfect. And I think that men, they don't ask themselves, you know, they just go, they move on. And that's maybe the difference why we see less women entrepreneurs, because we just wait to have the perfect business plan, to have the perfect product, so we just have to accept that it should not be always the case. Coming back to boards, I agree that I'm against quotas, but I hope that, you know, competences can be also valued. And, you know, you have beer with men together, you go and have beer and say, hey, why don't you come on my board, sit on my board? We don't. We go home, we take care of kids. I mean, so
you lack the network sometimes.
Sometimes we lack the network, and I think that's why we need Hoopit again. Yeah. I'm not trying to advertise, but I truly believe in what we're doing. And I think that's how we can leverage network in a more natural way than going beer, playing tennis together. That's a true fact. And we need diversity. When I was practicing as a lawyer, I was the only women partner in the law office, and we were specialized, as I said, in real estate and construction. And having different standpoints really helped us like become very sharp, because I was bringing other aspects that my male partners were focusing on. And so it really broadened the perspective, and I think that's diversity is key to success. We need a diverse. It's not just nice to have; it's a need to have today.
The next question, yes, please. Oh, we need the.
Oh, sorry.
So may I leave the diversity turf? I would be interested, as you mentioned, that you have both a US and a European component. You are not in on the market yet, as far as I understand.
Soon.
Where will you go to market, and where does the sales competence reside? Is US or Europe based?
Yeah.
And why would you choose one rather than the other market if you do?
Thank you.
So the go-to-market is definitely US, but we are now focusing in terms of tech on building this security sovereign layer, which is going to be a differentiator even in the US. Because today, and there's a real concern about the government seizing your data, even for American citizens. And this is a real threat. So there's a kill switch ID, whatever. I said, why? European and the European legislation and the European, ecosystem is designed to really help us go privacy by design. And we have our research, we have everything. So the R&D security layer is here, but the go-to-market is definitely going to be in the US.
How about the clouds? Because that is one.
So that's
one
the,
huge
I just
issue
had a
now.
discussion with someone from Swisscom.
Yeah.
We are currently on AWS for our proof of concept.
Yeah.
We are now working on putting everything on a sovereign cloud base here, and the whole work we're doing with EPFLs, because there's a research lab from EPF working, is really like building these layers of security into our graph, also to make sure that data are not cross-exchanged and so on. So I think it's a competitive edge, and it's going to happen here and not in the US.
Yeah, interesting.
So, and I think that's where, my background as a Swiss entrepreneur can bring the value, because it's not seen as such by US entrepreneurs. They don't have this sense, they're not sensitive as we are, because we were raised with that notion of privacy and security.
All good? Do we have other questions, comments? Otherwise, we still have some time if you want to jump in. When I look back on what you said, and at all the stages you've gone through, we have some younger people here as well. If you had an advice to give, were there any pitfalls you would have liked to avoid back then, or is it part of the journey? What would tips be?
You have to accept to learn, and as I said, don't consider that if you learn and you take bad decisions, you should underestimate yourself, But I think the human factor is the most important. If you want to start a company, please really take time to assess your partners, because that's going to be what's going to make you win long term, is who is around you in the company. I really believe the human factor is the most complicated but the most valuable one. And I understand when investors are looking who is as a founder in the company, because that's what's going to make you, are you going to give up? Are you persistent? What have you done in the past? So that's very important. And what you bring with yourself on the table. But now, Urs, I have to also say, AI has completely changed the way companies are now founded. You see these new young founders your age raising billions. They founded companies like Legal, like Harvey, all these new companies in the US, valued 1.2, 2 billion, whatever. And so there's...
Is this a real value, or is it completely distorted? What would you...
we're all a bit lost about this valuation. Is it a bubble that's going to burst? Is it because it's, we know it's commoditized now, AI is a commodity, but is it because they think it's going to replace a whole industry, lawyers, as we discussed previously? But what I can say is that these young folks, they go faster. They don't ask themselves so many questions as we used to do. And so there's really a shift, and we should be learning from them too.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. I should learn from you too. So it's like
So it's almost, it sounds like another Wild West that is going on. You were talking about that as well. And I keep looking if you have any questions. Something we haven't talked about in detail yet is funding, because as you just talked about, it's there are some huge sums around. There is money around. It's getting more difficult maybe. How do you approach that whole funding question, and where do you draw red lines? Where do you see what you want, what you don't want? Do you have a whole theory about it, or do you go into it?
No, I think you need to really be very specific on the type of investors you want to bring in your company, because hard times, you don't want like the bad investors who are going to say that we switch it off, and we're going to go through bad times anyway. There's no like a dream. Even you see OpenAI right now is going through hard times, as we can see. But I think it's also, so qualify your investors, definitely. But also we need to show traction even more than before. And we cannot just come with an amazing product. The curve, going from 0 to 1 million ARR is like, has changed massively. So that also impacts the valuation, because they skyrocket within a few months. And this is putting a lot of pressure on the fundraising cycle. Yeah. So that's where we need to blend, bringing real tech, deep tech, having patents. I still believe in the value of really showing that we have tangible technology. But on the other hand, you can have good tech if there's no adoption. What's the value? So we are now at the stage of accelerating with the product and the adoption.
And what are you looking for, VC, or what kind of capital?
So we're in the seed stage, and we would want a VC, because we have a first VC, US VC who entered, but as a lead for let's say the first stage, and now is going through to other co-investors leading this seed stage.
Okay. I'll have a look around. There's other questions.
Any investors in the room?
Please come forward afterwards. Maybe to close the kind of circle and the discussion as well. We just had an interesting discussion on stage about the Swiss ecosystem and where is Switzerland at, and a lot of positive points, of course, but something you kind of live through at the moment. We are, and you said it yourself, we are small. So is there any hope for a Swiss company staying in Switzerland and doing what they do here, or do you see that sooner or later, if you want to scale up, you have to move?
No, I think you can keep the company seat. You can really keep the ground of the company. And even when you talk with tax specialists, they say we would love to have the IP in Switzerland. Switzerland is known for being stable currency, stable institutions. So that has a real value, because you don't know. I mean, it can change. Like in France, the tax system can change from one day to another. In the US, now it's better under Trump presidency, so they have lowered the tax rate, and they are also incentivizing when you sell your service abroad. So the tax rate has been
lowered.
Optimized. But I still think that this notion of having a stable place where you can have, your money, your finances, you maybe also part of the operation, staying in Switzerland, to me, should be valued by investors today, even foreign investors, because it can always be le repli national. If there's instability anywhere in the world, it's a very valuable place to come and stay.
So you're not tempted to move full time to the United States?
Well, I think we should really we should be agile and take the best of both worlds. And now I'm ready to do that. So I had to learn. It was a whole year where I learned how to how to act and react in the US. And I'm taking now I'm leading the company now. I'm going to be the CEO of the company as of in a few days, because I have this, knowledge about the European market and how we can leverage the European market, but I also know now how to leverage the US market.
Okay, so you can bring both worlds together.
Yeah, I think that's maybe part of the experience that I gained over the past year.
Let me give you one more chance if you have a question. Yes, please.
As you have said, the team fit is one of the most important things when to be successful when founding. How would you say, can you make sure to establish a good team fit, or what are investors looking for if they want to look if a team fit is good, or if a team would be able to overcome the challenge of founding a successful company?
Very good question.
So I read an article, I think it was from Andreessen Horowitz, saying the CEO, the founder, should be lovable. So that means that which is like,
nice.
You need to doing business. It's part of having good relationship, not stressing people, being charismatic. So that's one part, but also being technically able to deliver. So it's important to have the right people in terms of technology that you're building in the field that you're building. And so it's seeing the experience of the team, and to me personally is how much you're committed to make it happen. Because if at the first time you're going to have hard times, you leave the boat, that's not a good sign. You need to be ready to die for your project. You need to be ready to hit the ground hard, and you will. You need to be ready to be betrayed, because you will. And so I think these are qualities that an investor should be looking for, because being technically good, it's important. Being visionary, it's another one, and being committed. And I think, that's a third thing that is very important.
Being resilient, in one word.
Resilient, yeah, exactly. That's the most. I think that's the most important unfair advantage that you should have.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there's no more questions, there isn't. So thank you so much.
Thank
Leila.
you. Thank you for your
Dank u wel.
time.
Merci.